Tracy snubbed those 38 ounce.
Imagine a time when toys weren't just fun, they were downright dangerous. From toys that exploded to ones filled with toxic materials, the 1950s were a wild time for childhood playthings. Which of these popular toys got banned because they were too risky? Let's dive into the 25 most dangerous 1950s toys that are banned forever. These 1950s toys were small, motorized novelties designed to vibrate for sensory amusement. Often marketed by minor toy manufacturers, they quickly became notorious for overheating due to their poorly insulated battery systems. Overheating could lead to burns or even small fires.
As well, you can use your own Geiger counter to do that because the kit comes with its very own Geiger counter with batteries,
making them a hazard in homes. As safety concerns mounted, consumer watchdogs began to advocate for more stringent regulations. By the 1970s, these types of toys vanished, replaced by better engineered alternatives. Today, safety certifications are a legal requirement for motorized toys. No specific brand appears tied to these toys in records, but they highlight the lax safety standards of the mid-20th century. Lead soldiers were a classic childhood toy, made popular for their detailed designs and durability. However, they were often painted with lead-based paint, posing significant poisoning risks to children who handled or even put them in their mouth. Barclay, a prominent UK brand, gained fame for creating soldiers in unique day-to-day action poses, departing from the typical military stances.
Evergreen mainstay of my playtime due to their timeless nature, and the fact that they weren't tied to any media, like so many of my other toy interests in the 1980s.
Meanwhile, American manufacturer Manoil frequently collaborated with Barclay in the 1940s and 50s. These friendly rivals produced nearly indistinguishable items, cementing their shared legacy. By the 1960s, growing awareness of lead toxicity linked these toys to developmental delays and health hazards, prompting bans on lead in toy production. Next, let's talk about the thrilling yet risky rocket-firing guns. Rocket-firing guns were thrilling but dangerous toys popular in the mid-20th century. Many of these toys used spring-loaded mechanisms to shoot small projectiles, often made of hard plastic. While they seemed harmless, the high velocity and hard tips posed significant risks, especially to the eyes, leading to numerous injuries. One infamous example was the Austin Magic Pistol, created by Austin Manufacturing in the 1940s. Unlike typical spring-loaded toys, it used calcium carbide.
Hello kids, I want to show you a toy I got. It's actually a very old toy from the 1950s. It's called the Austin Magic Pistol.
A chemical that reacts explosively with water to propel ping pong balls at alarming speeds. This explosive mechanism caused severe safety concerns. By the 1950s, Virginia became one of the first states to ban the toy, and some states have classified it as a firearm due to its dangerous potential. The Austin Magic Pistol and similar toys eventually disappeared from store shelves as stricter toy safety laws took effect, underscoring a turning point in consumer protection efforts. While modern versions of rocket-firing toys exist, they adhere to rigorous safety standards to ensure safe play. 1950s toy swords, crafted from hard, inflexible plastic, were a childhood favorite, but often led to accidents. The rigid material and pointed tips made them prone to causing serious injuries, such as cuts or puncture wounds during enthusiastic play. Complaints surged throughout the decades as incidents of eye and facial injuries were reported.
Is like it even says Excalibur for King Arthur, with an X instead of a K. Very cool.
By the 1980s, manufacturers adopted softer materials like foam, making toy swords less hazardous while retaining their appeal. This evolution demonstrates how industry practices adjust to societal concerns over safety, with these toys now meeting rigorous safety standards. As toy manufacturers responded to safety concerns, they also began to innovate in other areas, introducing playful designs that added an element of surprise and laughter to childhood games. One such innovation was the water pistol. Water pistols were a beloved novelty of the 1950s, offering endless summer fun. One example is the Trick Squirt water pistol by Kenner, which disguised its function to surprise users with an unexpected squirt of water. Its clever design added humor to playtime, making it a standout in its era. However, like many early water guns, These toys were made with fragile, inexpensive plastics that often cracked under pressure.
I'll get one! I promise! Oh my God! I'll get one! Stop!
Broken pieces posed hazards. Broken pieces posed hazards, such as sharp edges or misdirected water streams that could harm eyes or ears. By the 1970s, rising concerns over toy durability led to the development of sturdier materials and safer nozzle designs. These innovations transformed water pistols into safer, enduring staples of childhood, setting standards that persist today. Jumping beans, popular in the mid-20th century, originated in Mexico and contained live larvae of the moth Cydia saltitans. These larvae curled and uncurled inside the bean to avoid the heat, causing the jumping motion. Though a fascinating novelty, they posed ethical concerns, as excessive heat could harm or kill the larva. While not inherently dangerous to humans, they raised questions about using living organisms as toys.
The jumping bean is really the seed of a desert shrub. Only a few show this odd leaping.
These beans became associated with cultural traditions in Sonora, Mexico, where they are harvested from Sebastiana pavoniana shrubs. Today, Mexican jumping beans are rare and mostly serve as curiosities rather than mainstream toys, though their environmental sensitivity reminds them of nature's complexity. If you thought jumping beans were risky, the electric toy trains were just as shocking in their own right. Electric toy trains in the 1950s, like Distler's O-gauge clockwork models, were engineering marvels but often unsafe. Their exposed wires and metal components created electrical shock risks, especially when powered by batteries or early electrical connections. Children handling these toys risked burns or injury from live electrical parts. Additionally, the sharp edges of the metal trains posed cut hazards. Despite these risks, they were prized as intricate collectibles, with some enthusiasts modifying them for safer operation. To mitigate dangers over time, toy companies improved safety features, including plastic casings and enclosed wiring. Modern versions of these trains emphasize both authenticity and child safety. Companies like Marklin and Lionel continue to produce toy trains, combining nostalgia with enhanced security features. Magnifying glass toys, common in the 1950s, seemed harmless but often led to dangerous misuse. Children used them to focus sunlight, inadvertently creating fire hazards. Fires could ignite quickly, especially in dry outdoor environments, causing accidents.
It may look like a toy, but it's also a functional tool for kids to use when they explore the great outdoors or great indoors too.
Also, improper handling risks severe eye damage when sunlight concentrates on the retina. Manufacturers later addressed these dangers by reducing lens power in toy versions and including safety instructions. Today, magnifying glasses marketed to children are designed for more educational use, such as exploring nature, and include safety features. While modern designs prioritize safety, the classic versions remain cautionary examples of seemingly innocent toys with hidden risks. Glow-in-the-dark toys from the 1950s gained popularity for their luminous appeal but carried hidden dangers. These toys often used radium-based paint, exposing children to harmful radiation. Radium emits alpha particles, which are hazardous if ingested or inhaled. Items like glowing figurines or clock faces were problematic, as children sometimes handled or chewed on them.
Coming up in the 60s, it was also coinciding with the Monster Kid generation, and who better than monsters to have a glow-in-the-dark action?
Growing awareness of radiation's health effects led to regulations banning radium in consumer products by the 1960s. Safer alternatives like phosphorescent materials replace radium, reducing risks while preserving the toy's appeal. Despite their allure, vintage glow-in-the-dark items are now considered hazardous collectibles, reminding us of the evolving understanding of material safety. Inflatable animal toys of the 1950s were lightweight and colorful, but often poorly made. Thin materials made them prone to punctures and popping, creating small fragments that posed choking hazards for young children. Deflated toys could also lead to strangulation accidents. Additionally, The plastic used often contained hazardous chemicals like PVC or lead-based paint, increasing health risks.
The good news is that the hopper is very stable and safe as it lacks harmful material, hence great for all kids.
While these toys provided affordable entertainment, their safety flaws led to stricter manufacturing standards over time. Today, inflatable toys are made with non-toxic, thicker materials and must meet stringent safety regulations. However, vintage inflatable toys are a cautionary tale about balancing affordability and child safety. While inflatable toys marked a shift in safety standards, toy crossbows soon emerged as a new concern, with serious risks of injury. Toy crossbows, particularly miniature versions like toothpick crossbows, became a safety concern due to their ability to shoot sharp projectiles at high speeds, which are capable of causing severe eye injuries and piercing objects like apples or cardboard. These toys gained popularity in China, especially among children, where they were sold cheaply near schools. The Chinese government eventually banned their sale, confiscating thousands.
Has many parents concerned, these toothpick crossbows have become a new favorite among Chinese children,
following reports of injuries such as a 10-year-old boy sustaining permanent eye damage. Although they briefly appeared online, retailers like Amazon removed listings due to safety concerns. In the U.S., there hasn't been a formal recall, but experts warn against their potential to cause catastrophic injuries. These toys are a stark reminder of the risks projectiles pose in children's toys. Toy cannons, such as the Big Bang cannon, were once popular but had serious safety concerns. First introduced in 1912 by the Gas Cannon Company, later renamed the Conestoga Company, these small cannons used a mix of calcium carbide and water to create explosive bursts of acetylene gas. While they lacked the recoil of real firearms,
it fucking takes a 22 rimfire. Look, there it goes.
The heavy projectiles launched by these toys pose significant risks, including blunt force trauma and eye injuries. These toys became increasingly controversial due to their potential for injury, leading to their eventual removal from the market. Although production ceased in the mid-20th century, some models are still made today as collectibles by the current owners of the Conestoga Company. Dart guns, such as the popular Nerf blasters, were a staple in many toy collections back in the day, but came with hidden dangers. These toys shot small darts with hard plastic tips that could easily cause eye injuries. The speed and force of the darts raised concerns among safety experts, as they led to cases of eye trauma, including bleeding, swelling, and even potential long-term vision loss. Despite safety warnings and testing by manufacturers like Hasbro, unregulated third-party darts and modifications to the guns increased injury risks. Due to these dangers, some versions of dart guns were eventually removed from the market, and stricter regulations were applied to ensure safer play. Now let's turn our attention to another seemingly innocent toy: wooden hammers. Wooden toy hammers were once common children's toys, but they posed significant safety risks due to the possibility of sharp splinters and breakage. Made primarily of cheap wood, these hammers were prone to splitting, leaving dangerous jagged edges that could easily injure children during play. The small, lightweight design made them ideal for toddlers, but the fragile construction was unsafe. Many of these toys were eventually removed from the market as awareness of toy safety grew, especially after publicized incidents of injury. Today, toy manufacturers are required to adhere to stricter safety standards enforced by agencies like the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission, CPSC. Another safety issue arose in the mid-20th century, posing serious health risks to all children. In the mid-20th century, some dolls were painted with lead-based paints, which were later found to be toxic. When children chewed on these dolls or handled them for extended periods, they risked lead poisoning.
Hard to find and sought after. We have a lot of play sets,
which could cause developmental delays and other serious health problems. A significant recall of toys with lead-based paint occurred in 2007, when Fisher-Price, under Mattel, had to remove millions of toys from the market due to excessive lead levels in the paint. These dolls were often imported from countries with lax regulations, highlighting the importance of stricter oversight. Miniature rocket launchers, particularly those from the 1950s and 60s, could launch small projectiles at high velocities, posing blunt force injury risks. These toys could lead to eye injuries or fractures if the rockets hit children or others in the face or eyes.
Whoa! What the heck? Talking fireworks!
Many of these launchers were recalled when it was found that the projectiles could become dangerously airborne, creating unexpected risks. While some rocket launchers have been redesigned for safety, they still appear on the market with various safety precautions. Toy axes, made of plastic or wood, were marketed to children as play tools during the mid-20th century. Despite being lightweight, these toys could cause serious injuries if mishandled. The sharp edges or points of the axes could lead to cuts or facial injuries, especially if thrown or played with recklessly. These axes were eventually pulled from the market as safety regulations became stricter. While the specific companies behind these toys are not identified in available records,
Bass, yo, what can I say? It's just a day in my life. I'm up early in the morning, in bed early at night. To be productive at work, I gotta...
The rise of consumer advocacy in the 1970s helped shift the industry towards safer designs. Today, toy axes are commonly made with rounded or blunt edges to prevent harm. These regulations ensure safer play and minimize injury risks. As safety concerns grew, other toys, like trampolines, soon faced similar scrutiny. Miniature trampolines, popular from the 1960s to the 1980s, were initially marketed as fun, indoor activity toys for children. However, their design was often unsafe, prone to breakage or poor construction, and they resulted in many injuries. Small, unregulated trampolines led to sprains, broken bones, and serious head injuries.
This is a little scary. It looks like the black stuff is going to break off.
The risk was particularly high when multiple children jumped on the trampoline at once, which often caused falls or crashes. As awareness grew, these toys were removed from the market due to their potential dangers. Although full-size trampolines are still in use, they now include safety nets, proper padding, and regulations to limit injury risks. Modern mini trampolines are subject to higher safety standards. Toy airplanes with sharp metal propellers were popular during the mid-20th century, but were soon recognized as a serious safety hazard. These toys were often made with metal blades, which, when mishandled, could cause cuts or puncture wounds. Children could easily hurt themselves by getting too close to the propeller or throwing the planes recklessly. As injuries from these toys became more common, manufacturers quickly removed them from the market. To avoid such risks, modern toy airplanes are typically made with safer, flexible materials such as plastic. These changes directly responded to concerns raised by parents and safety groups. Today, toys undergo rigorous safety testing before they can be sold. Released in the 1950s and early 1960s, some toy ironing boards featured hot plates that produced heat. These toys, marketed as miniature versions of adult appliances, were designed to let children imitate household tasks. However, they needed the safety features, with the hot plates being poorly insulated or needing protective covers. As a result, numerous reports surfaced of children suffering burns after accidentally touching the hot surfaces. The dangerous nature of these toys led to recalls in the 1970s when stricter safety regulations began to be enforced. Today, toy manufacturers ensure that such appliances are only powered by cold, non-functional designs to keep children safe. These efforts reflect a shift towards rigorous safety standards that have become commonplace in the toy industry. Popular during the 1960s, plastic batons were hard, rigid toys marketed for use in energetic outdoor play. They were often advertised as instruments for mock battles or physical play between children. However, the design flaws of these toys, particularly their inflexibility, made them dangerous when used as weapons or props in rough play. Injuries were common, ranging from bruises to more serious harm, including facial injuries when the baton struck children. The concern was further exacerbated by their widespread use in energetic play, which increased the risk of head and eye injuries. By the early 1970s, plastic batons were largely pulled from the market as the risks became more apparent, and safety standards were introduced to prevent such hazards in future toys. The pop-up clown toy, popular in the 1960s and 70s, relied on a spring-loaded mechanism that would cause a clown's face to suddenly emerge from a box, startling children. The unexpected surprise could cause children to fall or panic, leading to injuries. The toy's design, though intended for fun, proved to be psychologically disturbing for younger children, and the pop-up action often triggered a dangerous reflex. In some cases, children fell or bumped into objects while being startled. By the 1980s, the toy had been discontinued due to the safety and psychological concerns raised by parents and child safety experts. Today, more carefully designed toys emphasize safety, avoiding sudden movements or shocks that could harm children. Now, in the 1960s, a popular toy sparked concerns that would change the industry forever. Let's talk about it. In the 1960s, Mattel revolutionized toy guns with their Tommy Burst and Thunderburp series, known for their realistic sound effects. These toys used explosive caps to create loud bursts of noise, mimicking gunfire. Tommy Burst featured a bolt-action mechanism, firing bursts of 10 shots or single shots like a rifle, while the Thunderburp boasted a sonic sound chamber, delivering a loud noise without batteries or caps. While these toys were designed to be thrilling and realistic, they presented serious safety concerns. The loud noise from the caps could cause hearing damage if fired too close to the ear. Due to the risks associated with these explosive sounds, such toys were eventually phased out. Mattel, the toy company behind these creations, is a major player in today's toy industry, although it no longer manufactures explosive cap guns. Toy knives with spring-loaded blades were marketed to children during the 1950s and 60s. These plastic knives had a hidden spring mechanism that caused the blade to snap out when pressed. Although designed for safe play, the spring mechanism could cause injuries by quickly snapping back, potentially leading to cuts or eye injuries. Various companies often sold these toys, but they were eventually deemed too dangerous due to the risk of injury. While specific manufacturers are difficult to pinpoint, the toys were pulled from the market as concerns grew over the safety of such mechanisms. Spring-loaded components in children's toys have since been strictly regulated to prevent similar accidents. Toy helicopters featuring small, sharp rotors were once sold as fun flying toys. However, their design often lacked the safety measures to protect young children from injury. If not handled carefully, the sharp plastic rotors could cause cuts or scratches, especially around the eyes. Companies like Mattel and Hasbro were known to manufacture these toys during the 1970s and 80s. Following reports of injuries, these helicopter toys were recalled and eventually removed from the market. The risk of cuts from spinning blades led to tighter regulations on flying toys, and manufacturers were required to redesign such items to ensure they were safer for children. Today, the CPSC heavily regulates the safety of toys with moving parts like rotors.